Tzatziki Sour, I finally brewed it. This is video number 4 in the sourdough beer experiment. Some of you have said that I might have a small obsession with this brew, and yeah, you might be right, but I will tell you all about it. But now we need to get this into a glass, see the result, and show you how I brewed it, and also, of course, maybe learn a few things along the way. Oppa! I'm DrHans, this is DrHans Brewery, my channel about beer and homebrewing. And this is my friend Chewy. So I brewed this in the iGulu, and I have dedicated videos about the machine. I will link down below to them, and discount code and all of that. But now, epic pour. Nice. What a beautiful looking beer. We have a 1 finger tight head. I did force the head a little bit there in the pour. This is sitting quite cold, 2 degrees Celsius. So this beer is not only getting its color from the DME. I used mint in this, and I also, of course, used cucumber. I was thinking about maybe I should really use some real garlic, but yeah, I ditched that. I was thinking maybe I should add some yogurt, and I think of lactose even, but I don't want to add any extra sugar in this. So this is how I brewed it. This is how I brewed it. I used what we call in Sweden a kryddmått of salt. Kryddmått would translate into a spice measurement, and that is 1 milliliter. And if you don't know what a milliliter is, it's not on me. T-metric, buy the t-shirt or pick up an OnlyHans swag. I put 2 bags of 100% mint tea into a container and filled up that with boiling water and let that cool outside. I could have used leaf mint, but this was cheaper as I did a small batch, and as this was the first time I brewed this, I didn't want to use too much salt, too much mint. I didn't want to go overboard, but I did add an entire cucumber. So I let that cool down outside. Then I peeled 1 cucumber and cut off the endings. I didn't want to get any vegetable. I wanted to get the cucumber taste, but there can be some bitterness sometimes in the cucumber peel and also in the endings. Is that correct? Of cucumber. I've grown some and I know what I'm talking about. Maybe not so much this commercial slanggurka. And I don't know how to translate slanggurka into English, but the editing doctor can put it there. I cut the cucumber up and put it into a blender. That did not work. I cursed at the machine, that did not help anything, so I added some water and minced it, chopped it up into a slurry, and strained that, and tried the best I could to juice all of that goodness out with a spoon. Then into my 1 gallon fermenter, I added all the juice from the cucumber, the cooled down mint tea with pinch of salt, 1 milliliter salt, and I topped that up with honey water. I talked about honey water in the ice beer, and then I added 500 grams of DME. I used a light DME, and on top of that, I poured my sourdough starter. Then I went into the machine and hooked everything up. I set a 3-stage fermentation, which is available now direct on the screen after that update, which I also did a video about. Can check that, or everything linked in the description. I set it up to ferment at 20 degrees Celsius for 2 days, and yeah, the editing doctor will convert everything into birds and stones. Thank you. And after 2 days, I raised up the temperature to 21 degrees Celsius for 2 days more, and then I bumped up the temperature to 23 degrees Celsius for 5 days. But this beer has been an obsession of mine. The last time when I brewed the banana sour, I didn't thought that the fermentation had finished, but this time I was eager, and just 1 extra day after the krausen has completely fell, I started the cold crashing. So it didn't, I think it spent like 6 days in there. I wanted to try the beer out. But I took a measurement and sent it over to the lab doctor so we can hear him bitch about how I'm not the perfect brewer. But before we jump over to the lab doctor, let's give this a smell. Aroma. So clean, sour, can't smell any funkiness at all, cucumber and mint. Can't smell the salt, just kidding. Before we dive in, let's jump over to the lab doctor.
Oh, you're back again. I was just out collecting spruce tips for my spring brew. So, the doctor sends over yet another sample and he thinks that I will give him a rant on being a bad brewer. Maybe I will, maybe I should, but there is some interesting things here that we need to discuss. And cross in the ceiling, is that a saying also outside of Sweden? Let me know down in the comments. The doctor did do some things right here which we all can learn from. The measurement here was 1015, so we're back at 1015. The only time that we have dropped below 1015 for final gravity in the sourdough brewing beer experiment, did I say that correctly? I hope so, is when we co-pitched that WA18 angel yeast. I thought it had to do with using that medium DME, but also this time, this brew has been an obsession for Dr. Hans, so he was eager to try it out. What if he just would have left it there a couple of more days? Would that have dropped the final gravity even further? Or does it more have to do with his sourdough starter and the co-pitching of the yeast? We'll live and we'll learn every time. So interesting and note taken for the next brew. So now you're wondering, what did Dr. Hans do right here? Well, he made it simple. I know he back then reached out to the brewery and they said to add the cucumber in post, which means after fermentation. He didn't. And that is the idea. When you're adding a new ingredient, or even if you're doing a rebrew, think about how can I do this more simple. It's not about being lazy, it's about not risking contamination and also not risking oxidizing your beer. What if you could add it at flame out? What if you can add it at the same time that you add your yeast? Maybe sometimes you have to alter the amount, or maybe you would get another outcome. It can be all from adding fruits or adding hops or any ingredients. What if you don't have to open your fermentation vessel at all after you seal it? That is a good thing. So we added the mint and the cucumber at the beginning and turned out with a lovely beer with both mint and cucumber character. Because you would think that maybe those volatile flavors might evaporate during fermentation, but they didn't. So instead of dry hopping post-fermentation, maybe before fermentation. And I remember an experiment from Dr. Hans doing a split batch where he dried hop post-fermentation and later on in the fermentation. And that was quite an interesting experiment, and I will personally see to it myself that the editing doctor put that down below. So homework for you. Think of a brew that you made where you can take one ingredient that you had to open your fermenter for and add it earlier, and write it in the comments. Yes, just the idea of it. Sometimes you have to alter the amount, sometimes you have to change something else, but every time we try something new, we learn from it. But I will leave you now. I have another forest bear here to wrestle before dinner. Cheers.
Scene 1, apple, take 2.
But we will push on with the sourdough beer experiment. But now we need to dive in. Cheers. Really good mouthfeel on this one. Nice sourness. Can really feel it in my gum. And we did not add any hops, so nothing should hinder the sourness. Nice level of carbonation. Get a cucumber, and I feel I'm getting some like saltiness on the tongue, but slight thing. It might be good that I just added one kryddmått. The mint is there, like a nice note to it. I didn't want the mint to take over because it's easy to just throw too much of the stuff in there. But I didn't start brewing yesterday, and I learned from my mistakes, so you can learn also. You can always add, but it's much harder to try to take something out. You could always add more salt if needed. You could add more mint. You could do like a tea and add it afterwards. And you could add cucumbers afterwards, but you can't take anything away. And it turned out super awesome. I want to blow my own horn. Of course I do. What a great beer I brewed. Cheers. What beer do you want to see next in the sourdough beer experiment mini series? I have been talking about the pizza beer, the pizza sour. I don't know why the pizza beer has to be sour, but I've been talking about that. It was a recommendation of a lingon, I think it was IKEA lingonberry sour. See, I can put, thank you. We can't do all of that, but lingonberry sour is really great. And I had a lingonberry sour ages ago, which my brother brewed. That was awesome. And speaking of pizza, I have actually put out a pizza video on this channel where I play with a super hot gas salamander oven. Check out that one. Big shout out to the brew crew, and I'll see you in the next one. DrHans out.
That's all, beer bitches.